All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a deep breath. Relax, everybody. It's year one, 7 games in. No need to panic. We'll talk about the future of the program here today on Between Years. What's up, everyone? Schuyler Callihan here with another episode of Between the Ears. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our page. Add West Virginia on SI. Episodes drop every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you want to continue to hear about this atrocious football team, we'll be here to talk about it. And you can also check us out every Thursday on the Walk Thru GameDay Show, and I'll have Eugene on me with that. We'll break down that matchup with the Horned Frogs tomorrow, and we'll recap the action every week on the Mountaineer Postgame Show immediately after the game. And look, the last couple of weeks, I've noticed a lot of the comments, the overall theme has really shifted, and it's to be expected. The way things have gone, and just the way they've been losing games, and it's been a lot of negativity. And I completely understand it. I'm not here to tell you how to feel. That's your own thing. But I think the one thing we continue to lose track of is that this is year one, and that what year one is this is very typical for year one. And everyone wants that instant gratification. They want the Kurt Signetti thing to happen. They want the Sonny Dykes thing at TCU to happen. And it's not the reality. Okay. And can it happen? Yes, but more often than not, this is what you get in year one. And there's been so much in the comments about Rich Rod wasn't the guy. I tried to tell you Rich Rod wasn't the guy. He's never going to be the guy. He's never going to win here. Da, 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 da. Look, you can have that opinion. You can feel that way about Rich Rodriguez, but it's not time to do that right now. It's not 7 games into year one where they're down to their fourth and fifth quarterbacks. They're repping a freaking walk-on quarterback this week because that's how banged up the room is. They're without their top 2 running backs. They're without their number 2 wide receiver. I mean, folks, like, what do you expect with those types of injuries? You can call it excuses. I'm calling them facts. Now, you can say that it's next man up, and it is. And I'm not excusing that part of it. When you have injuries, you need guys to step up. You need to have development. And I'll be honest with you, like, I'm going to criticize certain areas of this roster. The offensive line, which I talked about on Sunday, there has to be better play there. 1,000,000%. The reason why I have so much more criticism on the offensive line compared to anywhere else is because that's where there's been the most continuity. That's the group that is from start to right now has been virtually the same 5 guys every week, and we have not seen improvement. So, yeah, I'm going to criticize the hell out of the offensive line. I'm going to criticize some other areas of the roster too, particularly the secondary. They played extremely well the first 3 weeks, and since they stepped into Big 12 play, they've been getting carved up. That's an alarming situation there. That has to be that is a thing that goes back to coaching. Why the drop off? Why not getting back on track? So, yes, I will criticize certain areas of this roster, and I will criticize Rich Rodriguez. I have no shame in doing so. I'm not afraid to do that. But what I'm not going to do is 7 games in, or even at the end of this season, say, oh, Rich Rod needs to go. Again, this was a controversial hire from the very start. And I feel like a lot of people were on one side of the aisle or the other. They were either, yes, I'm so glad Rich Rodriguez is back. This is exactly what they need. And I know it's going to take some time, and we're going to ride with them and die with them. And then you have the other side that just hasn't got over Rich leaving the first time, and that's understandable. There's some of those people that maybe have not gotten over him, but they're glad that he's back. Some of them said, nope, don't want him back. He can't win. Can't do it in this era. Da, 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 da. And now those folks are like, yeah, told you so. He's proving me right. It's your one. Come back to me next year. Come back to me in 2027 or 2028 because he's not going anywhere. So if this is the result, I would be completely forthright with you. If we don't see the level of improvement that I think is needed by next season, oh, I'll be saying stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like, I will be criticizing Rich Rodriguez to the nth degree because that's what should happen. He should be seeing a level of improvement that warrants competitive football, especially next season. This year, it's a wash, man. And I don't. Some folks just don't want to hear they claim it as excuses, but they just don't want to hear the facts. The facts are he arrived to West Virginia late in the process. His coaching staff got in late, and the portal was picked over, as we've talked about. You can sit there and compare UCF to West Virginia all you want. I don't care what the recruiting rankings say. Look at how many years are recruiting rankings wrong. They miss on guys all the time. They miss on classes all the time. I don't care what somebody who's probably not played a whole lot of football in their life has to say about what their rating is. I just don't. I don't put a whole lot of stock in the ratings and never have. Now, when you look at the guys that UCF brought in, pretty talented. Okay, they've got a lot of speed. There were guys that left the state of Florida, went and played football elsewhere, and had an opportunity to come back home. Some talented guys. They're also not on their fourth and fifth freaking quarterback. Okay, in that game, you could if all things are equal, and you go back to the roster that West Virginia had in game one, where you had Nico playing, you had Jaheim White healthy, you had Jaden Bray healthy, and you put them on the same field as UCF, it's not the score that it was this past Saturday. That's the facts. There's no way that happens. Okay? West Virginia was on its fourth and fifth quarterbacks. And yes, Scotty Fox is QB5. Entering the season, he was quarterback 5. I don't care that he had a package or two in the pit game. That doesn't mean he's quarterback 2 or 3. He entered the year quarterback 5. If Max Brown had been healthy, he probably would have started before Scotty Fox. Maybe even before Khalil Wilkins. That's why Scotty was the fourth different starting quarterback, not the second or the third, the fourth. So, look, you can jump off the bandwagon already or jump off the ship and say, this is never going to work. Go for it. Go for it. But why are we giving up on 7 games? I understand the product is absolutely atrocious. It is bad right now. There is no way to make excuses for some of the things that have happened in certain areas of the roster, but there are also facts, and we have a lot of trouble separating the facts and excuses. There are some things that I think that are made excuses of, and I think it's wrong, like the offensive line. For example, I've heard Rich say multiple times, well, if those guys were better, we'd be playing them. Well, you've also rotated different guys in at every other spot except the worst group on the roster in the offensive line. So why not try to shuffle things up there? Now, he did say in his press conference earlier this week that there'd be a possibility that happens. But I will criticize that because to me, that's an excuse. That is an excuse. You're 7 games in. The 3 seniors that have played poorly all year long are not getting better. They're not going to get better. And it does your team in the future a disservice by not figuring out what you have in Josh Sosa, Donovan Haslam, and Malik Agbo. That's an excuse to me. If that second group isn't better, then that's coaching. That is coaching. But because you haven't been able to throw the ball well because you're on your fourth and fifth quarterbacks, or you've struggled to find consistency and explosives in the run game because of all the injuries you've had there. And let's not forget, Jalen Knighton was supposed to be a part of this thing. And they didn't find that out that he was going to be ineligible until around the start of fall camp. So you're technically without your top three running backs. So you can't take a holistic view of this and say, yep, it's all excuses and it's bad coaching. No. You have to break it all down. Certain areas, it is bad coaching, or it hasn't been good enough coaching, I should say. In some areas, it's just bad luck with injuries. It's you didn't have the depth to deal with it in the first place, and now you're down several guys at certain spots that you can't afford to be down. That's the reality of it. If you take the top three or four quarterbacks off of any other roster, you're probably getting the same result. If you take the top three running backs off any other roster, you're getting the same result. This is just a year where it's a total wash. It's bad, and it is what it is. But it's not the past 6 years. This is not going to be a continuation of the last 6 years. It's also not going to be what the future looks like for this program. They are going to get this thing turned around. When it happens, I don't know. And as I said earlier, for those that think I'm just, siding on Rich Rodriguez's side here and that I'm never going to criticize, that's not the case. If you read a lot of my articles or if you watch some of the other episodes I've had, I criticize. I just did it this Sunday about the offensive line. Just did it a couple minutes ago about the offensive line. That's not an excuse for me. You've got to make changes there. But I'm not going to the length of he's never going to be successful here. Now, may I have a stance on that at some point? Yes. But I'm not going to have a stance on it 7 games into it. Here's my theory. I give a coach the first year, and I've always done this. The first year is, okay, let's just see what happens, and I'll just take the information and go with it. Year 2, my bar raises just a little bit. And in this case, it's going to raise a lot because you've got to close the gap. So year 2 for Rich Rod, he's got to field a competitive football team. It doesn't have to be 7, 8, 9, 10 wins, but be competitive. Get to a bowl game. Be competitive in your losses. Don't get blown out by 30 points. Next year is when I'm going to start to form my opinion on whether or not this thing's going to work. I'm not doing it in a year where there's a laundry list of injuries and you had 80-plus new players. Yes, other teams have had that stuff too, but they also didn't have the injuries. Okay, like UCF. They had their starting quarterback in. I don't care that he's been dealing with a shoulder injury. It was his non-throwing shoulder. His non-throwing shoulder. Nico can't even walk. Jalen's banged the hell up. Max Brown's banged the hell up. Been banged up since the start of pretty much fall camp. He had a non-throwing shoulder injury. He looked pretty good. I think he looked okay. He could handle it. Jaheim White can't walk. Well, he could walk, but he can't run. Ty Edwards certainly can't. Jalen Knighton can't even play. UCF has their top running backs playing. That's the difference. Again, stack these teams up in week 1. Probably looks a little bit more, similar as you would expect. So, field a competitive football team in year 2, and that's what it should be. It's what it should look like. I'm not going to criticize every nook and cranny and corner of this roster. I'm just not. I'm not going to criticize the running back play. I'm not going to criticize the quarterback play right now. It's not good. But how can you expect those quarterbacks to make any progress when you don't have continuity there? When the supporting cast around them has been trash for the most part. It's not been good. And you put these 2 young pups into the system or into the game that aren't probably ready to go into action yet, but they've been forced into action. This is what it looks like. Like, it's not rocket science. When you have all of this stuff happening around the quarterback spot and you put in a redshirt freshman or a freshman quarterback in the game, this is what it looks like. Unless you just have a phenom not 5-star, because I'm not talking about ratings, but to get my point across for you guys that do lean into the ratings. Unless you have a phenom, a freshman phenom that's going to come in and just light it up, it's a can't miss prospect. This is what it looks like. So again, you can jump ship now, but what's the point? Why? Just to say that you're right through 7 games? Tell me that you're right in a year or two. Tell me that you're right in 2027 or 2028. I'm not here to back Rich Rod. I'm not here to completely bash. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to tell you straight up. I've never sugarcoated it before. I didn't sugarcoat it during the Neil Brown era. It was the same thing with Neil. In year 1, I said, we'll just see what happens. Year 2, let's raise the bar. And in year 2, give him credit, he did, but it was, COVID. It was an odd year, shortened season. Didn't play the schedule they were going to play, but it was better football. Year 3, that's when I started to realize that wasn't going to work. Because year 3, they had to turn the corner, and they didn't. By year 3, I knew Neil was not going to be the guy. So just relax, take a deep breath. There's no need for all this vitriol and all this negativity in the comments. Like, folks, it's a lost season. Accept it. This is a team that's not going to a bowl game. So from this point moving forward, it's just trying to get to the end of the year. Okay? And we can have some fun in the comments section and talk about certain things and talk about the future, but just pounding the table saying that he's not going to be the guy, it ain't it. Come back to me in 2 years. And if you're right, sure, I'll toss a cookie your way. Like, what do you want? I'm not going to make my stance on this thing after 7 games in a year like this. Absolutely not. If the roster was completely healthy or for the most part healthy, and you had many of your key guys available, and this was the product, I'd probably have a little bit more firm stance on this situation. It's not going to do it. So, anyway, let me know your comments. I know it's coming. Just go on and bring it. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me how bad of a coach Rich Rodriguez is. I'm waiting for it in the comment section. Just let me know. So that's going to do it for this episode of Between the Ears. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll be back tomorrow with the Walk Thru GameDay Show, breaking down that matchup with the TCU Horned Frogs. Thank you, and take care, everybody.